those crazy people. You can call me crazy if you want. I think a lot of people would consider my way of looking at the world a little bit out there. I look at government as almost always, if not always, socialistic in nature. There are levels of socialism, right? One government will be far less socialist, for example, than another. But the point is, government as a rule is society supposedly working together for the betterment of the society as a whole. And this to me is what socialism is, the intent of socialism. Obviously, the quote stronger versions of socialism are an elite class who rule over people supposedly for the benefit of society as a whole, if you want to go there. But the point is, society is pretty much generally, and government of society is pretty much generally always socialist in nature. You might make some arguments that for some that weren't, but for the most part you have to make that argument. I bring this up because of the idea of taxation. And I ask a question in my notes, and this one I'm going to read so that you have an idea, and it is it even possible to make the argument that taxation would occur for any other reason than redistribution of wealth? Now we're going to talk, as I say, on the Daily Summation today, on the subject of why taxation. By the way, the Daily Summation is brought to you by Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Saturday, the 15th of May of 2021. And again, the subject for today is why taxation. And so I'm thinking about this, and I started to come to certain conclusions, right, about this. And one of the conclusions that I came to is I literally cannot come to a place where I can look at the idea of taxation and see anything but the redistribution of wealth. If that's questionable to you, let me bring some ideas up that will probably help you to understand basically what it is that I'm saying. Okay? The first of these, let me read my notes for you, because that's something I think it's useful for you to hear. Even if the assumption is that the money collected will be used to build infrastructure, and I put that in my little air quotes, right? To build infrastructure, you have to ask yourself this question. Who gets the most benefit from such projects? Who gets the benefit out of it? And I can make some argument about doing things like rolling trucks along highways and so forth. I can make that argument. But that, if you think about it, more cars substantially than trucks run on the roadways. Okay? So besides getting the benefit of employment to produce where those infrastructure projects are concerned, so things like highways and so forth, the results are far more used by the poor than rich ones, right? That's a given, I think. I grant you that trucks and stuff make that a little less true, but the guy who's rich may not even have to drive into work every day if he doesn't want to, or he or she doesn't want to. If it wasn't true that money is being taken from the wealthy to support activities for the less fortunate, why do it at all? Why not just have the rich pay for the things that are out there anyway, and not do any taxation to make that happen? The rich don't need programs to support them. Their houses, their medical bills, and so forth. As a rule, they have the money to do that. They don't need that. They don't need that. And that's basically what I said in my notes today. Here's the thing. Let's assume, and we're going to simplify this because it's not by any means this simple. Let's assume that you have a 10% tax rate, and you have a person who makes $28,000 a year. That means that person pays $2,800 in taxes, right? And if they pay $2,800 in taxes, it means that they get somewhere around $25,000 in income with only $2,800 in taxes. Now let's say you have a person who makes $250,000 a year. That person, if they really pay 10%, pays $25,000. And that means instead of $250,000, they make $225,000. It's a pretty major hit when you think about it. You don't think of it as such because it doesn't seem like somebody taking that much money out of that individual is that big a deal. But it is. Okay? Now imagine that they make $20 million. Okay? And they get a 10% tax. The reality is that person pays $2 million in taxes. And the $20 million that they initially had is now $18 million. Now, as I've said, it's not this simple. It's not that simple. There are a couple of considerations, in fact. The first consideration that you have to take into account is that a person who is poor generally gets all their money back at the end of the year. So if they made $28,000 in a given year, they probably actually got at least $28,000 total income, because when they get their income tax back at the end of the year, the chances are good they got as much as they put in, if not more, back. There are things like earned income credit and so forth that make it so they actually get more than they put in back. On top of that, the tax schedule is gradiated, is gradient, right? So the person who was paying 10% for their first, let's say, $250,000 is paying 15% for the next, I don't know how much, $500,000, let's say. So they're actually paying more as they go up the scale, right? Not less, as people would assume. If instead of paying, so let's say it was $500,000, and it moves up to 25%, so they're actually paying what, $12,500 in taxes on that money. So it actually goes up in the course of time, and people begin to realize the more I make, the more I pay in taxes, and it becomes questionably worth it for them to start earning at a given level if the taxes are too high, and they start to see a point of diminishing returns where they're losing enough money that it's not worth it for them to make that money. But here's what I'm saying. The point is, if you look at the people who are better off, yeah, I got that. I covered that. I wanted to make sure that I'd covered the idea that poor people didn't necessarily pay any tax at all when you look at it in the long run. In fact, might be getting back more than they paid into the system, which is a direct redistribution of wealth, right? But again, if you look at a lot of the things that are there, so Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, food stamps, Section 8 housing, which are all taxation on various levels of various of the more well-to-do individuals, those things are of no benefit to anybody who has any kind of income or has any kind of wealth. They're not beneficial, not at all. Oh boy, I get Medicare. I go to the doctor and I pay him cash. And by the way, it's cheaper because I don't have to do the medical insurance thing that the middle classes get stuck with, right? I go buy food at my local Whole Foods or whatever, don't want to name names here, but, holistic food store or whatever. So the point is, none of this stuff is beneficial to them. There's actually a very small amount of the sort of infrastructure-related stuff that's beneficial to them, and most of it is beneficial to everybody else as well. And so it's not really meaningful to say that they're getting more benefit out of those things than anybody else. Again, if a person is driving to the local store, driving to work, driving to their kids to school, whatever, they're probably using the roads as much as anybody else is. So this idea that taxation as a general thing is not a general redistribution of wealth is a broken idea. No, it is. It's redistribution of wealth, pure and simple, and there's literally no way to get around this. You basically, the more you think about it, the more you realize why would I take money from somebody who makes a huge amount, a pile of stock, a ton of money? Why would I take that money away from that person and give it back to them? That's not what I'm doing. I'm taking that money and giving it to somebody else who's more in need, whether it's through programs of one sort or another, like building highways, or whether it's more direct programs like welfare and food stamps and so forth. I'm giving it to less less fortunate people. It's not really about fortunate, by the way. It's about a person who has worked hard to get what they've got, for the most part. Yeah, okay, there are people who are heirs of vast fortunes. So basically, I don't see any way that you can get around the idea that taxation is a redistribution of wealth. I can't see a way. That's what it's about. That's why taxation exists. It doesn't exist for the wealthy. All right, I'm about out of time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. Hope you're having a good day. Today is Saturday, so what a lot of folks celebrate as the Sabbath. A lot of Christian, a lot of Jewish folks celebrate as the Sabbath. Happy Sabbath to you today. Hope you're having a good day. Hope you're having a good day whether or not you celebrate the Sabbath. And again, if you're working this weekend, thank you very much for being around and doing that for us. This has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I am your host. I'm Kurt. Today is Saturday, May the 15th of 2021. That means tomorrow will be Sunday, the 16th of May of 2021. Thank you for everybody who's been here on Rumble on the podcast and on YouTube. Remember, you can like my videos on YouTube if you do like them, and you can give them a positive rumble on Rumble if you happen to be visiting me there. The subject today has been why taxation, and tomorrow we're going to talk about individuality, which is, I think, a very important subject. Again, I hope you're having a very good day today, and hopefully we will see you again on tomorrow's Daily Summation. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This video was recorded on Saturday, May 15th of 2021. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I hope you found it entertaining or instructional, or maybe both. If you want to see more from me, you can go to blogs.kpschubert.com. That's blogs.kpschubert.com. I am on Twitter, Parler, and Minds.com. My handle on each of those is @kpschubert. That's @kpschubert. I have a Rumble and a YouTube channel. They are the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble and YouTube. I have a Facebook page. The Facebook page is Kurt's Religion and Politics as well. I am on Patreon. If you want to support me, that's one of the better places you can do that. And you will find me at Kurt's Religion and Politics on Patreon. I have a podcast. The podcast is podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. That's podcasts.kpschubert.com. I think you should be able to find me with relative ease on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify as well. The best way I find to do that is to look for Kurt's Religion and Politics. You can try to use the Daily Summation. I find that it doesn't work as well as a general rule, but you can always try that. I'm glad to have you aboard today, and hopefully we will see you again tomorrow.